So that's the real secret here, is whether you're calling a girl on a date or you're going to do something extremely scary. The way that 99% of people get ahead in life is by if you want to have a life that is better than most people, well, then you've got to get comfortable doing this one thing. And that is, oh, see the deer? Yep, filming this live. So, yeah, if you want to get comfortable, or if you want to be better than 99% of most people around you, you got to get comfortable doing this one thing. And that is, get comfortable being uncomfortable. I'll give you two examples. When I grew up in an era where we didn't have cell phones when we were kids, and when I was in high school, when I wanted to call and ask who was now my wife of 34 years, out on our first date, here's the deal. I had to, first of all, make that call from my house, where that phone was connected by a wire to a wall in the kitchen, meaning that there were other people around, and it was really uncomfortable. And I took grief from my sister, certainly took grief from my parents a little bit, not so much my mom. But as you're working up the courage to make that phone call and hoping that nobody's going to be in the house while you make that phone call, you have to realize that on the other end of that, you're calling your would-be date, and she is also living in a house where there is one phone. She has an older brother, she has parents, and she has uncles. And God knows who's going to answer the phone when you call. So the whole idea of getting out of your comfort zone to make a phone call and then having to deal with whatever's going to end up on the other end of that call, that was nerve-wracking. And I think that was really good for young people like myself to learn how to get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you wanted to go on a date, you had to make an uncomfortable phone call. It didn't really work out too well having those conversations, when you were at high school in the hallways, because you didn't want to be rejected in front of all your friends. You would prefer to be rejected in private. So, yeah, you had to work up the courage. You had to rehearse what you were going to say, think about the best time to call. And then fortunately for me, when I did make that first call, my would-be one-day wife was actually going out on another date that night. Fair. But she kept the conversation going, and after 20 minutes of talking on the phone, we decided to go on a date on another night. So there was hope. There was a chance. Now fast forward, that was 18. So yeah, that was 40 years ago. And after 40 years, what I can tell you is that today things have changed. Kids are texting each other. They've got personal cell phones with personal lines. You can pretty much guarantee that if you're going to be making a call to somebody, you're getting that person, not somebody else is going to be answering the phone. So yeah, it's kind of one way to look at how we grew up in an era of, getting uncomfortable as a proving ground to help you get more comfortable, get more competent, get more confidence. So let me give you another story. I was training for my first Ironman, and open water swimming was my biggest fear. And I am not a strong swimmer by triathlete standards, but by regular standards, yeah, I'm a pretty good swimmer now. And as I was practicing for my first Ironman in Louisville, I happened to be doing a business trip down in Chicago. And for those of you who have ever been down to Navy Pier, they've got a beautiful beach. It runs right along the waterfront, along the highway. And the water is it's a beautifully clear water. It's got a sandy bottom, and this is where a lot of triathletes and open water swimmers go to practice their swimming. And when I was there, I remember meeting a whole bunch of triathletes on the beach and having this really odd conversation with these folks. There was a group of guys who were all going to be doing a triathlon the following weekend. And they had never done any open water swimming. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Like, it took me months to practice having panic attacks in the water and getting over those panic attacks, calming myself down, learning how to deal with that. And what I found was an overwhelming number of guys, and men and women, get involved in triathlon without being fully prepared. And that's where trouble happens. Now, as I sat there, I had come out of the water and I was taking my wetsuit off. I talked to these guys and I watched them go in the water. Sure enough, one by one, they would all stand up in the water and pop their heads up, and I could tell they were having a panic attack and they didn't know what to do about it or how to deal with it. So it's not a very smart decision to go into a hostile environment, which is a triathlon the following weekend, being very, very underprepared. Now, fast forward that summer, I'm in Louisville, and the water is brown and murky. It's warm like a bath. And as I'm in there doing my practice swim, thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this water is gross. I can't see my hand in front of my face. I just want to get in, feel the water, and get out. Well, on race morning in Louisville, it wasn't a mass start. It was a one-by-one start. So we had to get in this big lineup. It was called the Great Lawn. And you just had this big snaky line of athletes who were waiting their turn to get in the water. And at 7 a.m. the bell went off, or the horn went off, and one by one the line moved and everybody jumped off the dock and into the water. Now we had to jump into a river that fed out into the Ohio River, and there were a bunch of boats, yacht clubs. Actually, this is pretty messy here. I'm not going to walk through here. It rained yesterday. There were a bunch of boats, boat houses, and as I made my way snaking around the Great Lawn, I came down to the boat dock, and the very first boathouse is the sheriff's boathouse. And all I can think of is, I'm going to be an Ironman. I'm going to be an Ironman. And all this panic is ensuing, and I'm thinking, like, there's guys running around the boathouse and like in a panic, and they're heading back up towards where the parking lot is. And I'm like, okay, whatever. There's probably something going on in the parking lot. Don't know, don't care. Going to be an Ironman today. So I go and I make my way down the dock, and I jump into the water, and off we go. And as I'm swimming, I realize that there's a whole bunch of paddle boards, and you're allowed to hold on to a paddle board if you're having a panic attack. You just can't move forward down the river. I remember I was in the water for maybe 60 seconds, looking to my left as I'm breathing, and I happened to see a whole bunch of bodies holding on to a paddleboard. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe how many people came to this race unprepared. And as it turns out, what was happening was there was another gentleman who lived maybe 30 minutes away from me. He was in Buffalo. I'm in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. His name was Mark Weska. He was from Buffalo. And he was competing in his first Ironman triathlon as well. And Mark was an accomplished swimmer, but I later found out that Mark didn't like open water swimming, so he didn't prepare. And what was happening, unfortunately, was that gathering of people around that paddleboard were trying to help Mark, because Mark had had a panic attack in the water followed by a heart attack and had actually passed away. And I didn't realize this until I actually got home from the race, and one of my friends asked me, hey, were you in that race where that guy died? I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I went back and I read some of the newspaper articles, and the article that was the most telling was from his father, who said Mark was an accomplished swimmer, but he hated open water swimming. So what that told me was Mark didn't do the work. Mark didn't prepare himself properly so that he could get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because see, what happens is when you get comfortable being uncomfortable, your confidence and your competence both go up. And what felt like an uncomfortable situation is no longer uncomfortable. So that's the real secret here, is whether you're calling a girl on a date or you're going to do something extremely scary. The way that 99% of people get ahead in life is by getting comfortable with the idea that I'm going to put myself out of my comfort zone. I'm going to do something really hard that maybe scares me a little bit. But with practice and repetition, I'm going to get over that fear. I'm going to develop that confidence and competence that I need, and I'm going to become the person who I aspire to be. I'm not going to let other people's fears, or my own fears for that matter, hold me back. So if you can apply this lesson to your life, what I would say is this: if there's something that you want to do in life and fear is holding you back, well, the three things that hold you back with fear are loss, process, and outcome. You know, maybe you fear losing friend groups because you're going to do something new. Maybe you fear the process is going to be too hard. Maybe you fear the outcome won't be what you expected it to be. The idea is, put yourself out there, do uncomfortable things until they become comfortable. That will take you to your next level of success, where you'll have to learn how to get uncomfortable again. Do something else that's going to be uncomfortable. And it looks like we had a windstorm here last night, and the path is blocked off by a downed tree. So we're going to head back this way again. It's great living beside a Short Hills Provincial Park, where you can have these wonderful trails to go for a walk in the morning. And I'm going to be broadcasting a lot of my YouTube videos from down here. I think it's just a great place to go for a walk, have a conversation, and share some of the life lessons that I've learned. So if you can take anything away from this today, I would just say this: don't let fear hold you back. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Develop the confidence and competence you need to be successful in life, and that will put you ahead of 99% of the people in this world who are too afraid to do that, too afraid to step out of their comfort zone. So if you liked what I had to say today, and when you liked the video, please remember to like, subscribe. I've got this big ambitious goal of getting 1,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel. And I'm going to create content like this where I can share lessons that I've learned in my Ironman journey for 18 years, in my business journey, and just being a dad, a parent, and being on the planet for 58 years, and still feeling healthier than most 25-year-olds, doing crazy things that most 25-year-olds wouldn't even consider. So if that's your bag and you'd like to follow along and learn some tips, please remember to like, subscribe, leave some comments, and I will look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye for now.